Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out the bizarre tale of Britain's most famous balls.
I'm standing on a giant male appendage on a hillside in Dorset with a large human figure marked in the chalk around it. Now there are very many chalk figures on hillsides all over this area, but none quite so famous as this one, for obvious, very obvious reasons. Now it's said that this is a fertility symbol carved into the hillside millennia ago to help the local women and families in the area with their fertility.
Okay.
But it's also said that it's much later than that, 17th century in fact. So why don't we know how old this giant cock is?
Wow, that's a giant. Show me on a map. Right, where is it? Cerne Giant viewpoint. Okay, I'm not seeing it anywhere around. Oh wait, is it? Oh, there it is, y'all. Oh. Interesting body with the shoulders in the front. Giant lopsided areolas, some ribs, and a balls. And he looks frustrated. I'm getting frustration, confusion, anger even? I think he's angry. He's holding a weapon. I guess that's a weapon. Looks like a weapon. Yeah, okay. He said there are a lot of them around, but where are the others? Where exactly is this? Let's zoom out. Oh, way down there. Okay. For some reason I thought this was going to be up in Scotland or something, but it's way down there. Oh, I lost it. Oh, we lost it. There it is. Don't worry, we found it. We found the balls again. We'll never lose you again, balls. Right, y'all? Let's learn about this balls. How many times can I say balls? I am curious how they made that and then how it's not overgrown. I guess it's being maintained, right? I don't know. That's something I want to look up too, but I'm going to let the video play. They put pants on it. Oh, wow. Hey. Why do we know so little about Britain's most famous balls? Y'all, I love this because it's a graphic. You could say this is pornographic. You could say this is disgusting or in poor taste. But I love how it's just like family friendly in a way. There's a giant on a hillside and everyone's like, hey, come see the giant. That's what this town's about. Come look at the I would argue those are also Britain's largest areolas. Let's not discount the areolas, right? They're substantial. I'm curious how they made these, like how... He said chalk, so does the chalk keep the grass from growing? It looks like somebody's mowing this lawn, or maybe the livestock keeps the grass trimmed down. How is this still here? You know?
Yep, welcome to Cerne Abbas, a very ancient village with one very famous resident and probably the most famous male appendage anywhere in the world. And all right, yeah, probably one of the most famous chalk figures anywhere in the world as well. But anyway, this fella...
What did it say at the bottom of the screen?
Resident and probably the most famous male appendage...
For the sake of not angering the Puritans at YouTube, you'll be hearing me say appendage a lot through this video. Okay. No, that's fair.
Anywhere in the world. And all right, yeah, probably one of the most famous chalk figures anywhere in the world as well. But anyway, this fella has been drawing people here for a long time. The problem is, we just don't know for how long. Down in the southernmost part of England, you'll find lots of these giant chalk figures carved into hillsides.
Wow.
And the most famous of them all is this cartoonish giant overlooking the tiny village of Cerne Abbas. It's 55 metres top to bottom and 51 metres wide and cut
I have no concept of meter. Is this a meter? Is this a meter? I don't know. See? I gotta look up. Meters to feet. 55. 180 feet. Wow. How many inches is that? 2,160 inches, y'all. Impressive.
Into a steep face of a hill, making it 51 metres wide, and cut into a steep face of a hill, making it visible from a distance while being almost impossible to see from ground level. The figure has been drawn by cutting trenches into the soil over 1/2 metre deep, and then filling those trenches with bright white chalk.
Okay.
So what does it depict? Well, it's a man, that much is pretty certain, with strong legs, broad chest, tiny head, and comically wobbly arms. In its right hand, it's holding a knobbly club, 2/3 the length of its own body, while his left arm is outstretched in a kind of come and have a go gesture. He has ribs, large uneven nipples, a tiny mouth, little round eyes, and even minuscule eyebrows. Although despite taking the time to cut a massive erection into the hillside, for some reason the artist clearly thought giving him a nose was too much of an ask.
Oh yeah, no nose. This looks like Casper the Ghost, y'all. What if it's a grey alien?
And a phallus. Well, the phallus is clearly standing to attention, indicating that this particular giant enjoys wielding his club a little too much.
There's no such thing as too much.
It's also quite long, 11 metres in fact, which is almost the length of its head.
11 meters is how many feet? 36 feet. How many inches is that? 432 inches, y'all. 432 inches. That's a big...
Which is quite normal, I suppose. Well, that's what it looks like, but like, why? Well, to understand that, you've got to understand the people that created it. And we know that, don't we? I mean, we know who created this pretty large, distinctive chalk figure on a hillside. Well, as it turns out, we don't.
Oh, okay. I thought, okay. Is it
First of all, large things created on the landscape that seem to have a wider representative value, like henges and other large figures, are usually very ancient. And it's a giant. And it's simple, like a cave painting. And it's facing the heavens. And all of these things, for various reasons, just scream ancient, like Neolithic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it does seem like a caveman would do that, you know? An expression of irreverence. Subversion.
Right, so first a little bit of context. Above the giant on top of the hill is this rather nice oblong earthwork, which appears quite old. So if this hill and this location is important enough for what appears to be an ancient earthwork, is it likely that it's also important enough for an ancient chalk figure? So taken at face value, it appears quite old. I mean, it's a giant holding a club, and the club itself suggests that this was made by ancient artists depicting someone from their era or from an era very close to where they were. So is it as simple as that? Is that case closed? So if this giant with a giant's club is in fact thousands and thousands of years old, then it seems to have slipped through most of that unnoticed, because the earliest mention of it anywhere is from a church accounts book written in 1694, referring to the cost of repairing it being 3 shillings. Jump backward to another local historical record, a 1617 account of the area by famous mapmaker and antiquarian John Norden, and the giant isn't even mentioned, though the Iron Age fort above it is. A church survey of the land from the 1540s also fails to mention the giant. The 18th century was when popular historical accounts of British history began to be written. This was the age of the semi-professional antiquarian, when detailed descriptions of historical places began to be surveyed and studied properly.
Yo, what's an antiquarian? What's an antiquarian? Show me on the internet in general. Antiquarian. relating to or dealing in antiques or rare books. I feel like I should have known that. Look at these guys. Look at that head shape. Wow. He needs a hat. He needs a hat.
Descriptions of historical places began to be surveyed and studied properly. The giant is mentioned several times throughout the 1700s, and into the following century, interest in it grew. It was even sketched a few times for the record, though some Victorian historians chose not to include the genitals. Possibly for...
It's all about the genitals. Puritans.
Historians chose not to include the genitals.
Lame.
Possibly for modesty reasons, but also possibly because the whole thing had really fallen into a bad way and much of it had been grown over with grass. Which is something important to consider. Maybe the giant was cut into the hillside 1,000 years ago, but was lost below a sea of long grass, hence why it wasn't mentioned until the 17th century.
How do you do that? Is it a satirical cartoon? It's a good question.
So let's go back to this idea that it's not ancient, but what seems more likely from the 16th or 17th centuries.
That's
Then the
still
question
old.
of why seems to become even less clear. Several theories have abounded over the years. One suggests it dates from the time of Henry VIII and the dissolution of the monasteries. And the giant is a caricature of the last abbot of Cerne Abbas, a man with a reputation of promiscuity, it seems. One visitor, the famous travel writer aptly named Richard Pocock, called the giant...
Wow. I think Richard Pocock made it, y'all. Everybody's calling me Dick Pocock. I'm gonna show them.
One visitor, the famous travel writer aptly named Richard Pocock, called the giant the Heli, and wrote that it seemed to be Hercules, or strength and fidelity.
Could be.
Hercules, of course, is the Roman version of the Greek divine hero and champion of the people, Heracles, famous for his great strength and amazing adventures, and usually depicted wielding a giant club.
That would make sense then. Yeah.
Now I realise I might have just lost you there. We took a pretty unexpected leap from cartoon appendages to classical mythology, didn't we? Well, wait, there's more. So one story of Hercules is his killing of the giant Nemean lion, and he was occasionally depicted with its skin draped over his arm in triumph. Well, in 1996, studies of the Cerne Abbas Giant hillside showed that there was an outline of a blanket or a skin, an animal skin, over the giant's left arm.
Okay.
Which kind of explains its unusual length and position, and also opens up debate about what other details of the giant have been lost over time.
I want to see if I can see it in the grass. Let's check it out. Show me. I see something here a little bit, like this. There's a little bit of a tension, it looks like. Maybe down here. There's a little something, a little darkness. And then along here. That makes sense. And then like here, there's a little spot. Could be, y'all. Could be. Could be. Y'all, it's amazing that this was some ancient structure or hole in the ground, and it's still there. Still there. It's amazing. Cerne Abbas is a village and civil parish in the county of Dorset in southern England. It lies in the Dorset Council administration area in the Cerne Valley in the Dorset Downs. The village lies just east of the A352 road, 10 kilometers north of Dorchester. Thank you, Wikipedia/Google. Interesting.
So opens up debate about what other details of the giant have been lost over time. So if it is a depiction of Hercules, then that suggests it dates back to about the Roman occupation of Britain, right? Well, no, it's not that simple. In fact, the prevailing argument now seems to lie with the Lord of the Manor in the 17th century, a man called Denzil Hollis.
Hollis had been one of 5 parliamentarians whose attempted arrest by troops of Charles I sparked the English Civil War. Despite this and his opposition to the king, Hollis opposed the war and instead advocated for negotiated settlement between each side. As a result, he came to despise figures like Oliver Cromwell, whose radical ideas wanted to topple the monarchy. The idea is that Hollies had the giant commissioned on a steep-sided hill he owned as a caricature of Cromwell, who was occasionally nicknamed the English Hercules. The club holding hillside Hercules had been a way of sticking it to Cromwell, and the giant erect phallus possibly a puerile poke at his puritanism. In other words, this was a satirical cartoon. Or even more bizarre, the giant was actually a dig at Hollies himself, created by locals who disliked his political stance, or his rents.
There's so much merch. I'm glad to see that. It's been embraced and not censored. Isn't this fun, y'all? Balls. Denzel Hollis. Show me on Wikipedia. Oh. First Baron Hollis. English statesman, best remembered as one of the 5 members who attempted arrest by Charles I. Sparked the first English Civil War. Wow. He was a wealthy landowner with substantial estates in Nottinghamshire and Cornwall, including a giant with a giant penis. He was a Puritan. Wow, okay. Maybe he just had some pent-up aggressions toward Puritanism and he wanted to put a giant on a hill. Unlike his colleagues, Hollis opposed bishops not for religious reasons, but because he objected to their role in the Lords, as they were also responsible for censorship. So he was anti-censorship. This makes me think he did it, y'all. The removal led to an explosion in the printing of pamphlets, books, and sermons, often advocating radical religious and political principles. Interesting. He was an anti-censorship Puritan.
Parliamentarians whose attempted arrest by and opposition to the king,
Hollies
opposed the war and instead advocated for negotiated settlement between each side. As a result, he came to despise figures like Oliver Cromwell, whose radical ideas wanted to topple the monarchy. The idea is that Hollies had the giant commissioned on a steep-sided hill he owned as a caricature of Cromwell, who was occasionally nicknamed the English Hercules. The club holding hillside Hercules had been a way of sticking it to Cromwell, and the giant erect phallus possibly a puerile poke at his puritanism. In other words, this was a satirical cartoon. Or even more bizarre, the giant was actually a dig at Hollies himself, created by locals who disliked his political stance, or his rents.
Okay.
Or
His
it could
rents,
be completely
right.
meaningless, just something local people did once for, I don't know, fun.
It is
There's
funny.
even a suggestion that there was already an older, possibly Brittonic picture on the hillside that Hollies ordered to be changed or overdrawn.
Okay.
So what's the absolute latest idea going round? Well, in March 2020, the National Trust obtained soil samples from some of the deepest levels of the giant's foundations and found compelling evidence that the giant is actually more likely to date to around the late Saxon period, around the 7th, 8th or 9th centuries.
Okay. That's
LiDAR
all.
analysis by drone also suggests that the belt seen across the giant once ran the entire way, suggesting his appendage was added later, possibly centuries later.
I would believe that.
We already know that it grew over the years, absorbing the belly button. And as this is based on good scientific method, it's the best date we have. But it's not clean cut, it's kind of messy. Which then leads us to the next obvious step in logic. What if this has just kept changing over time? What if the Cerne Abbas Giant is actually a sketch that people have always added things to and taken things away from as time has gone by?
That makes sense.
There's no way to answer this as yet, but it does say a lot about how much we can take anything like this at face value. Anything historical and unique has the potential to be vandalised or altered without us knowing about it.
Yeah?
So the answer is we just don't know. But it's there, and it's no longer just part of Dorset history, but part of British history too. And is it really so bad that we don't know? I mean, this whole corner of England is full of chalk figures, many of which we don't know the origins of. And sometimes it's nice to have something historic in our lives which just It's just a mystery.
Yeah.
And sometimes knowing everything about everything in the world around us takes away some of the fun of it. It takes away some of the mystery.
Absolutely.
It takes away some of that wonder.
Y'all, smart people are some of the saddest people, and dumb people are some of the happiest people. I almost said dumb people are some of the smartest people.
Of things like the Cerne Abbas Giant.
The Long Man of Wilmington was also thought to be from Neolithic times at one point, but is now also suspected to be from about the 16th or 17th centuries. Yet we know that the Uffington White Horse is actually really old, probably pre-Roman.
Wow.
But I quite like it when strange things like the Cerne Abbas Giant also come with a bit of mystery to them. It leaves the door open to all kinds of stories, local folklore and speculation. Some local stories say that the figure is the outline of a real giant that fell asleep on the hillside and was decapitated by locals while he slept. Later Victorian era folklore says that even infertility can be cured by sleeping or sleeping with someone on top of the giant.
Today the Cerne Abbas Giant is a source of fun. It makes people smile, and most people don't really care how long it's been here. They just enjoy the fact that it is here. And that, to be honest, is a great way to be about anything.
Wow, this is fun. I'm curious to see other chalk figures. Chalk figures? White leaf cross chalk figure. That one's not very good. That's boring. Chalk figures of UK. The Cerne Abbas Giant is the most popular. The Buford Kiwi. Check that out. Okay, yep. Couple of horses. That one dude with the poles he mentioned. What's this one? Oh. There's Homer Simpson with a donut next to the giant. He didn't even mention that. He didn't even talk about the Homer Simpson next to it. There's another horse. Wow. I like this one. There's more motion than the other one. Looks like it's probably a more talented artist than that other horse. What are these? What? Oh. Those are modern. Get out of here. Wow. Now this looks like it took a long time to make. Look at that. A kiwi. Wait, it says NZ next to it. That's got to be modern, right? There's a dude on a horse. That looks kind of modern. There's a crown. Is that a bird? What is that? What in the world? This is a very sick horse. This horse looks sick as well. Oh, there's that crown from closer up. What's this one? Oh, someone put pants on him. What do y'all think it is? I like his theory towards the end there that it... Is that his mustache now? Cool. I like his theory towards the end of that video that it's a combination of stuff. You know, that's more likely. I feel like someone probably carved the giant in there, and then some teenagers probably came around and said, let's give it a big... Wouldn't that be funny? And they were right. It is funny. Have any of y'all had sexual intercourse on the giant's giant? What is that? That one's not very good. Let's check out this town a little more. Show me photos. Beautiful. A creek with a bridge. Flowers. Oh, that's that guy's house, I guess. Hollis. A church. A cathedral. Oh, that's something. Beautiful. Beautiful. Whoa, that is old. A tree. Church. The new inn. A bog. Plants. Windows. Creek. Windows. Flowers. Windows. Church. It's a beautiful little town. It's just so funny to me that the thing that makes it famous is this giant with a giant. It's funny to me. There's a brewery, y'all. Look at these guys brewing. Hey. Oh, yeah. Oh, y'all. Anything in this town automatically has great branding. You just put that giant on the side of it, And there's your marketing. Yeah, way to go. What's this brewery called? Oh, Cerne Abbas Brewery. Do they have a website? Oh, they do. And I wonder if they have clever names for their different kinds of beer based on the giant penis. Our beer is brewed using only high-quality green sand-filtered water. I don't know what that means. Show me a bruise. Buy beer. Let's look at the bottles. Right. Mixed case. Tiger Tom Ruby Mild. Watercress Warrior. Bottle Blonde. Gert Coconuts Rum Stout Case. Dorsal Ale. Legless Jester. Cerne Abbas. Big Lebelski. Okay. Big Lebelski. See, that one makes me think of the giant, which is funny. I'm sure the beer is great, but I feel like they could lean more into the giant stuff. You know? They got a big drawing of it on the front. Let's lean into the a little more. That's what she said. How about Mighty Member Ale, Giant's Pride IPA, Chalk and Awe Pale Ale, Rude Awakening Stout, Well Hung Wheat Beer, Big Swingin' Bitter, Erected Session IPA, Standing Stones Lager, The Long Pint, Chalk God Golden Ale, Full Frontal IPA, Hop On Big Boy, like hops, The Giant's Tipple, Rock Hard Red Ale, Chalk It Up Lager, Standing Tall IPA. There's a lot of good names you could come up with. You're welcome to use any of those I just said. Great video. I feel like I've seen photos of this thing before, but I never... What's this? It's gone. What happened? He lost it, y'all. He needs some hymns. Well, y'all, I hope this didn't offend anyone with all the and balls. I hope you found it to be whimsically subversive. Well, y'all, I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.